Welcome to Cooking for Yummies on the Maple Knoll Radio Network. Coming to you from the Cromer-Mashburn Family Studio at WMKV. On this program, we explore the world of food, from the grocery store to the specialty store, and from the restaurant to your own kitchen. In doing so, we learn more about us as well.
Thanks so much for joining us. The program is Cooking for Yummies here on WMKV and WLHS. And joining us back, one of our very special guests that we have on a regular basis, and that's Chef Aaron Neiman with the Kroger Company. We're coming up on Valentine's Day, but in some ways, I think this year Valentine's Day is being trumped by Who Day. And we're going to talk about some Who Day snacks for February the 13th for the big game, the Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. Chef Aaron, thank you so much for spending time with us. Are you as excited as most of us are about the Bengals going to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an exciting time. The more exciting part is that it's unexpected. They've been an underdog in every game they've played in thus far, and I think they're going to be an underdog one more time, which makes it that much more exciting. But they don't look at it that way. I like the confidence. Even
if in years past you have not attended a Super Bowl party, and many people do, I'm pretty confident people are going to be asked at least to come to Super Bowl parties, if nothing else, and to watch the Bengals and maybe the commercials. But we have Chef Aaron Neiman here, and we're talking about some Who Day snacks that we might be able to bring to impress people or just to have some fun, maybe thinking a little bit out of the box. And I mentioned, Chef Aaron, before we started the show, that a lot of times you're asked to, bring a couple of snacks or something with you. And for some of us, you grab a bag of nacho chips and bottle of salsa or cheese dip, and you kind of feel chintzy doing it that way. So I'm hoping maybe we can give people ideas, whether they're hosting a party or going to a party, or just entertaining maybe with family at home for the Super Bowl. What are some ideas that you might want to give us for Super Bowl Sunday, February 13th?
There's a number of ways you could go. I mean, if you want to stick with the traditional snacks of football, you could definitely do a different style of maybe nacho if you're doing it at home. If you're taking it to somebody else, you could do your own chicken wings and maybe make your own sauce to go with it. Traditionally, a buffalo sauce is just butter and regular old hot sauce. You melt the butter down into it and pour it over when it's cooked. But you could do the simple things better, or you could do something to where maybe you're putting together a vegetable tray where you're cutting up some nicer vegetables, maybe throwing some of the purple broccoli in there to dress it up a little bit. Put together a fruit tray where you're cutting fresh fruit and maybe you're putting some yogurt dip on there. But if you want to go really high end, I personally would recommend putting together a charcuterie board. It might be out of the budget for we'll say traditional party goer, but charcuterie board has the finer meats and cheeses on there, maybe some mustards and jams, and get some nice crackers to go with it. It would really make a nice centerpiece for your finger food.
Not only just a nice centerpiece, but some people really do it up in a beautiful decorative manner. You create these really stunning patterns sometimes on a charcuterie board. There are some people out there who may be saying, now wait, he's talking about charcuterie. What is that? But you're saying these are kind of chopped up or sliced pieces of cheese, meat, maybe even fruit on some. Many of us think about it as kind of a vegetable tray or a meat tray, but done a little bit more artistically. A charcuterie is one of those great new terms. When we create something like this, the goal for some people is to be the one who's invited back every year because you bring the coolest snack, right?
Yeah. Charcuterie is one of those things where you could really go any direction you want. You could have salami and pepperoni and cheddar cheese and keep it simple. Or you could go with things like prosciutto and soppressata, and maybe you could throw some brie on there and some Gouda, and you could make your own whole grain mustard, which is really not hard to do. I think people get a little overwhelmed when they see something look pretty, so maybe they don't understand how simple it might be to put something together on your own and how satisfying it might be when you get compliments on this, when you're getting invited back the next year, or people are still talking about it. Or maybe if you're into it, they're posting pictures on their socials talking about how awesome it looks.
In fact, I would challenge somebody, if you've got a way to do this, and send us a photo if you can. If you're doing a charcuterie board of some kind, can you do the Cincinnati Bengals stylized bee? That would be really cool if you could use different colors to make that happen. We have Chef Aaron Neiman here with us, and he is with the Kroger Company. He joins us on a regular basis here on Cooking for Yummies, and we're talking today about Super Bowl snacks, Who Day snacks, whatever you'd like for the big game coming up February 13th. Do you think, Chef Aaron, that in light of COVID, are some households or some party hosters still doing individualized treats as opposed to a big communal crock pot of stuff?
I think it might be kind of a mix. I think there's some brave ones out there definitely still having large gatherings, but I can say from my personal experience that we've either done immediate family or maybe one other family that we know we can trust. It's just really about, I guess you could say, taking the precautionary steps that you're safe with, and of course maintaining distance, be in an open room. If you're serving finger foods, make sure you're using utensils to help yourself to that and not just kind of picking through it. I think it's going to be up to the individual, and making smart decisions, but I think people are trying their best to celebrate, and that's really tough with a pandemic still existing in this world.
Right, and you're going to have a lot of people there watching the TV, and again, whenever I've gone to Super Bowl parties, you've got about a 50-50 mix. Some people are there analyzing every play of the game, and the rest are just telling you to hush during the commercials. Speaking of commercials, one of the big treats that I think a lot of people might be having this year, and I tell you, they know their niche market, Avocados de Mexico. The TV ads happen every year during the Super Bowl. So is guacamole still trendy for people to bring?
I've never complained about a good guac. There's something about the element of if you have chips and dip and you have wings and you have pizza, you have all these heavy items. When you go to the guac, it's got a light, kind of refreshing. The fats in it are good fats for you. So there's definitely a good side to the guacamole. And when you have it, you know it's fresh. It has to be fresh, or otherwise it's going to oxidize and turn brown on you. So
right.
I personally think there's definitely a benefit to bringing guacamole and making a good one at that.
Are there any tips that you have? What do you like in your guacamole when you make it?
So a lot of people like a smoother version. I'm a big fan of a chunky guacamole. So pico de gallo is definitely the go-to there. So you have onions, tomatoes, jalapenos, cilantro, and lime for what is essentially a basic salsa, but it's chunky. And then just a little bit of extra lime that I put in mine. I leave it super simple. If you're a fan, you could put a dash of cumin in there just to kind of throw people off a little bit. And it gives it a nice toasty, kind of hidden note to which you didn't know was coming. And putting cumin inside of the guacamole is definitely my secret.
And the other thing you mentioned are the good fats in the avocados that are in there. The other nice thing about those fats is that if you do bite into something that's a little on the spicy side, maybe you don't want the sour cream that might be on that same table, the guacamole helps to kind of cool the tongue just a bit, does it not?
Of course, yes. The very rare non-dairy dip. There's a lot of dairy-based dips out there, whether it might be the cheese balls or the buffalo chicken dip or the queso, the things that go in the crock pot a lot. Yeah, definitely leaning towards the healthy fats to cool your mouth down is a good thing.
We have Chef Aaron Neiman here with us from Kroger, and you can find out more about all kinds of fun ideas and all things going on at the Kroger Company at Kroger.com. It's so easy to find some neat ideas there, some recipes. We're talking about 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐤 snacks for February 13th, a special show today on Cooking for Yummies with Chef Aaron Neiman. We'll be back with more, talking about all kinds of goodies that you might have, even some maybe old traditional ones that I know were a big deal when we would have a lot of Super Bowl parties. We'll get Chef Aaron Neiman's feedback on that as well. We'll be back in just a moment here on Cooking for Yummies. Welcome back. It's Cooking for Yummies here on WMKV and WLHS, and we're talking about 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐤 snacks for February the 13th for the Super Bowl, whether you're maybe having a small gathering at home, whether you're going to a Super Bowl party, whether you've got a big group or small group watching the game, or even just as a couple. Maybe you're hanging out watching the game or just watching by yourself. We have Chef Aaron Neiman here with us, and we're talking about some different fun snacks that you can do and different things that you can provide for your friends or family. And this is such an old school thing. Boy, am I dating myself on this. We actually had gotten from Jell-O some of those molds that were like little football helmets and footballs that you could get from the Jell-O company. And we would try to match the helmet colors. This year, I guess it would be like a blueberry Jell-O and an orange Jell-O. We would match those, and that was our big thing to bring every year at some Super Bowl parties. I know that's maybe not as cool as charcuterie, but that's one I think some people do. But I don't even know if you can still get the football Jell-O jiggler molds anymore. What are some other goodies that you like, Chef Neiman?
I'm a big fan of the basics, I guess you could say. I do like the buffalo chicken dip. I'm a big fan of bite-sized chicken, so even like a popcorn chicken that you could choose whether you want to put sauce on it or not. I do like to have something sweet around. So actually something I made the other day, a recipe I made, popcorn drizzled with 2 different styles of chocolate.
Oh.
You could do that with the same process with, maybe pretzel rods or something like that.
Yes.
And it would look nice, but it would satisfy that sweet craving as well, to where you wouldn't have to have a cake or a pie sitting around, or cupcakes, whatever it may be.
A lot of people may balk a little bit at the thought of putting chocolate and pretzels together, that salt and that sweet. But let me tell you, that can be a really cool combination for the taste buds. And if you've never tried one, it's definitely worth trying. And maybe at a Super Bowl party, it's not like you have to make a whole batch. You can try some that somebody brings to the party. And frankly, even though I know it's technically not chocolate, I love white chocolate on those as well. They're really good.
Of course, yeah. I would agree. Yeah, you get some different flavor profiles, even when it comes time to, as we discussed earlier, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Those chocolate-covered strawberries, they're going to be available, which is an odd timing for Super Bowl parties, but you're going to be able to grab chocolate-covered strawberries when you're coming in to pick up Super Bowl stuff. That could be an easy addition as well. And again, another good-looking addition on the table. You can have a really nice setup.
We talk about the fact that you have this incredible palette in front of you, and I'm talking more about a palette like a painter's palette. When you walk through Kroger, you can come up with all these ideas going into Kroger and just saying, hey, I want to do something different this time. One of the best ways to do that is maybe plan a little bit, especially with the Bengals in the game this year. Maybe planning ahead and not just grabbing something as you're a half an hour from the party. It might be fun to really kind of do something special this year because the Bengals are in. And there are ways that you could just walk around, whether it's the meat section, whether it's produce. What are some of the trends in terms of what people are kind of picking out now in general for 2022?
I think that's going to be a tough one, as we still are branching into it, but I think there's going to be a lot of, I know it's kind of cliche to say going into every new year, but I think there's going to be a lot of health trends. And the reason I say that is because we've been stuck in this pandemic, and I think people are they're ready to get out, they're ready to exercise, they're ready to feel good again and be active. And I think going along with that, they're going to be shopping the fresh items, fresh meats, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and maybe cutting out some of the stuff. I don't know if you'll see that at Super Bowl parties necessarily.
Right. That's a day to splurge.
Definitely a day to splurge. And as the people that are maybe dieting call it a cheat day, definitely you want to have fun and remember Foodie being in the Super Bowl is something that hasn't happened in over 30 years. So you want to splurge, and maybe you do go with the high-end filet mignon slider, and you do some nicer things because this hasn't happened in a long, long time. And even though they have an awesome team, who knows if it's going to happen anytime soon. So you want to experience it for what it is and experience it with your friends. Going forward with it, maybe you choose some of those higher-end items like charcuterie boards. Maybe you get a bottle of champagne and start your day with a mimosa at 1 o'clock while you're getting ready for the game at night. That's one of those things that going forward with the trends is probably going to start, we'll say, after the new year of the Super Bowl.
That's so true, because I'm sure people are definitely eating healthier starting in January. But, the Super Bowl might be just enough to knock you off the wagon for one day, and then you can get back on. That's a lot of fun. As we're talking with Chef Aaron Neiman from Kroger, you can find out more at Kroger.com. Aaron, basically, can people find some online ideas at Kroger.com?
Yeah, you can find online ideas at Kroger.com, and there's a number of ideas that I've done as we've gone through the playoffs on Local 12's website as well. The Local 12 website has a lot of ideas that I've done moving forward, and one of the neat things that I like to include with those segments is local products branching into new ideas. So being that Cincinnati is still in the playoffs, we're going to the Super Bowl, I've been using things like Grippos, whether it be local beers or, making Skyline dip, just trying to branch into those things. And as I mentioned, Grippos, I made a chicken wing, ground up the Grippos and coated the chicken wing in it. And you just pop it in your oven, and you have a nice crispy chicken wing with local flavors.
Wow, that is a great idea.
It turned out really nice, and I would be excited to see what other people are doing for local flavors. That would be really neat to see the home chef with the creative mind kind of putting things together in a new way. It'd be really neat to see all those things.
We have a few more minutes left here with Chef Aaron Neiman. What about crock pot ideas? Are there some favorites when it comes to maybe having something available all day? You want to keep the food warm, so a crock pot might work for you. Are there any ideas that you might want to share there?
The two that I'm a big fan of, and the one you have to start a little bit ahead of time, which is pulled pork. So you can choose to go the direction of purchasing an already pulled pork or purchasing an already barbecued pork that has the sauce in it and is ready to go. Or you can grab a pork shoulder and let it roast in the crock pot and then, of course, shred it. And as long as you have that sitting in some juices throughout the day to where it cannot dry out on you, it'll stay nice to where people can throw together sandwiches. And the other idea that I always love is the barbecue meatballs in the crock pot. There's something about them that's just super addicting.
And that goes for any time of the year. It doesn't have to be a Super Bowl. I agree with you on the barbecue meatballs. And it's one of those things. It's almost like comfort food for a Super Bowl party.
Yeah.
Any tips on food safety? Because some of our food will be out for a rather long day. Is something that we should consider maybe a little tray of ice that maybe some of the more perishable things might be able to sit on, realizing that we don't know everybody's situation, but some tips that might help us on food safety.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a number of things, but I'll try to keep it short. If you are doing something that needs to be cold, maybe you make 2 of them and rotate them inside and out of your fridge. If it needs to be hot, just make sure that it's maintaining a temperature above 135. That might not be your immediate priority, but if it's in a crock pot, that's genuinely speaking relatively safekeeping. Just make sure it's plugged in, turned on, and keep an eye on it.
And stir often, right?
And if you need to add a little bit of liquid, feel free to add some liquid back to it. Typically in crock pot meals or crock pot appetizers, there's definitely an option to add some liquid back in, whether you had it in there in the first place or whether it just needs a little bit of splash of water. But maintaining temperatures is key. And then, as I mentioned earlier, using utensils. Make sure there's utensils for everything that's being served. If you do have a large group of people, disposable plates are helpful so they don't have to go back using the same plate. And then make sure you yourself, as you're preparing items, you are washing your hands or using gloves or whatever it may be, because these are your close friends, and, of course, you don't want to hurt anybody. So just taking the measures that might take a minute or two would save a long, long time of maybe discomfort or pain for them.
Exactly. One of the other things I'd like to mention as we're in our final moments here is if you are serving different hot sauces or dipping sauces, it might be good to actually have a variety of a couple of different heat levels so that everybody who's there, unless you know that everybody there likes hot or mild, you can actually have it so that people can kind of try different heat levels as well. Chef Aaron,
I completely agree with that.
Chef Aaron Neiman from Kroger. You can find out more at Kroger.com. We also thank them for their support of this program. Chef Neiman, I'm going to go 23-17 Bengals, and you don't have to give a score or anything, but I take it you're probably rooting for the Bengals in this one?
Yeah. I honestly, I think you're pretty close on that one. It could go a little bit higher. I'll go 31-24. I'll go with a high-scoring game, okay. And we're gonna go with the Bengals on this one. Let's bring it home.
Very good. Hooday. Thank you, Chef Aaron Neiman. Yeah, it's a great time, and hopefully you'll have a great Super Bowl party or gathering, or just if it's just at home and having some fun. Some great ideas from Kroger and Chef Aaron Neiman. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, you can find out more at Kroger.com. You can also look on the Local 12 website for some of the appearances by Chef Aaron Neiman, doing some really cool local things through the playoffs with some Cincinnati snacks as well. You've been listening to Cooking for Yummies. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for joining us today for Cooking for Yummies, a presentation of WMKV, WLHS, and WMKVFM.org. Until next time, healthy and happy cooking.